Live and in person here from Epping, New Hampshire, home of three of New Hampshire's governors. Say hello, friends, everybody. Mr. B here, Poli-Ticking with Mr. B. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful Wednesday evening we've got going on over here after a day of rain. And by the way, before I go anywhere else, I want to reach out to the people of Florida and North Carolina and Georgia and wherever have been negatively impacted by the horrible storm that came up through. We pray for the people who lost loved ones, who lost their homes, who suffered damages and so forth, for the people who may be without power, the people who are suffering. Our thoughts and our genuine prayers are with you folks all. We pray that things return to some form of normalcy for you as soon as possible. And for those of you who have lost loved ones, we pray that the Lord grant you comfort and peace in the time of grief and loss. That having been said, my dear engineer, Mr. Blazeman, do you have that wonderful band of colors we've got? Can you run them up? We want to get going. Thank you very much. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. So we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And when I say all, I don't mean all of some, I mean all of the all. And ladies and gentlemen, we know that's exactly what it stands for. And we pray that there's a lot of division that's going on in this country, and the division is ended soon. How they're going to go about ending it remains to be seen. But we pray that, of course, there are peaceful resolutions to the differences, the divisiveness that have been going on for so long. And speaking of differences and divisiveness, now is the time, ladies and gentlemen, of all things, when things start coming in and keep talking about conservation and recycling and whatever else, and whatever else. And then what happens is I keep getting crazy ass things in my mailbox like this. This diaper licking piece of shit, former Vice President Pence, deigns to put a piece of mail in my mailbox after being a turncoat, pissant, run off at the mouth jerk, and wants me to vote for him. Mike Pence, I'm taking a page out of Sinead O'Connor. Fight the real enemy. Have a nice day, Mike Pence. Go scratch your ass with a pitchfork. That having been said, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be discussing, because it's obvious, it is plainly obvious, there is something that unfortunately may be terribly wrong with the health of the Senate Republican Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, gentleman who has been an icon and has been a fixture in American politics for many, many years, and in sections of American government. We've got a video we're going to come up with, and I've got a few little background before we get that video running. About who Mitch McConnell is and where he's come from and all that. He's had 3 freeze-up incidents now. But before we get into all of that, let's step back and find out exactly who Mitch McConnell is. He was born in 1942, February of 1942. In 1967, he went into the U.S. Army Reserve 2 days after passing the bar exam, of all things. When he was in the Army Reserve, unfortunately, he was later diagnosed with something called optical neuritis. And it's something that got him, unfortunately, but he was given an honorable discharge. He was not able to serve his time. He wanted to, but unfortunately tried to serve the country, but unfortunately couldn't. So in 1967, back then, he had passed a bar exam, and from 1968 to 1970, he was a legislative assistant to Senator Marlowe Cook down in Kentucky. And then from 1974, after that, he went as the Deputy Assistant Attorney General under Gerald Ford. This man has been around for quite a while. He's seen a lot of things. He certainly is not wet behind the ears. This fellow has seen many different spheres. He came up in not just the political arena, but the legal arena as well. So he was indeed well practiced and understood and knew how all of the branches of the U.S. government works. And he was, at the beginning time, was considered more moderate or whatever else, but as time went on, he became more conservative and known to be more conservative. 1977, he was elected the Jefferson County Judge Executive. Jefferson County, I believe that was down in Kentucky, where he's from. In 1985, the president, he has been elected to the United States Senate. United States Senate. This man has been working in the United States Senate since 1985. And I remember back then, I'm old enough to know, remember, and be cognizant of political things happening back in 1985. In 1985, I had been out in the workforce for several years. So I know about this. Widely seen as an obstructionist, McConnell was one of the 50 people who voted to remove Billy Blowjobs, William Jefferson Clinton, out of office. I'm sorry. By the way, if I say something that's objectionable to you, tough shit. Billy Blowjobs. I call him that. Why? Because he deserves to be called Billy Blowjobs. He does not deserve to be called President William Jefferson Clinton. Yeah, I'll give you that one. Anyway, he was one of 50 U.S. senators that voted in favor of removing Clinton from office. But as you may remember, Clinton didn't do a damn thing, and he just didn't vacate. He sat around and said, "Well, if I've been impeached, so what? Tough shit. I'm not going anywhere." In 2018, he was confirmed the longest-serving Senate Republican leader in United States history. This man's been around a bit. This man's been around the track, and he has not only been a racehorse, he has led and taught and been example for a number of them. So he has given an awful lot of service to our country. And like him or not, you must respect the fact that that man has served the country so well for so long. All of this, all having been said thus far, something seems to be having gone terribly wrong. Most noted, though, McConnell was his Senate tactic. The thing that worked for him, he kind of developed, or not developed, but he crafted so very well, and has worked with so very well, is the filibuster. Everybody, and that's anybody that knows Mitch McConnell down in Washington or in politics knows that he is a master at the filibuster. And for those of you who don't know what a filibuster is when they just get up and they just keep talking and 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 talking to death. Whatever happens to be on the floor, with the hopes that people get so damn sick of it, or they run out of time, they can't vote for it, or they just turn around, throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, the hell with it, we're not going to go through with this, walk away and do something else. And in that respect, I can see why people would have called McConnell an obstructionist. But it is indeed an effective tactic, and it has lasted and worked for him for quite a while. Now I'm going to reach out. I'm going to say, I don't know if my engineer Blazeman has the videos that are racked up yet. Do we have that worked out yet? Okay, let's get up Blazeman if we can have our first video, which is going to talk about one thing that people saying it's going to show. Oh, no. Okay, well. Okay, apparently we're having some sort of a. Okay, we have. I'm sorry. We have Mitch McConnell I want to show you what's going on. Blazeman, please go right ahead. There you have it, folks. A lot of people believe the man was having a form of stroke called a transient ischemic accident, TIA. And to their credit, with the TIA, things do happen like that. There's also something, a form of epilepsy called an absence attack. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you information on both of these, and we're going to be discussing and trying to figure out, well, maybe which one applies. But a little background here. About 15 months ago, maybe more, and I believe we may have a video for this too, I think. Do we, Blazeman, do we have that video?
A TIA is a transient ischemic attack. It is a temporary interruption of blood flow to a particular part of the brain. The symptoms of TIA are indistinguishable from stroke. Both should be treated as a medical emergency. TIA can be challenging because in some instances the attack may only last 10 or 15 minutes. In those instances, people will be feeling better even before they call 911 or an ambulance arrives. The important aspect of TIA is that even if the symptoms clear on their own, a stroke can often follow a TIA, and therefore it should also be treated with similar urgency. So we recommend that all patients who have TIA also be evaluated in an urgent fashion in a stroke center, because the risk of a disabling stroke, a deficit that doesn't go away after TIA, is quite high. It may be as high as 10% within 48 hours of the initial attack. So we urge people to treat TIA as urgently as they treat stroke, even though the symptoms may clear on their own.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is some wonderful information from the Mayo Clinic. Thank very much for all of that information. Now, TIAs and strokes happen for a number of different reasons. The next thing that we would be discussing would be a form of epilepsy, and this is what I firmly believe may be more the reason for what's happening, because Mitch McConnell had suffered a fall about a year and a half ago, maybe about 15 months ago. Mitch McConnell had a serious fall, and I believe he may have suffered a traumatic brain injury. And that would be an explanation as to why he might be suffering from this form of epilepsy called. Well, let's watch this next video, and it'll explain it.
Let's look at seizure classification, for example, in epilepsy. Two main types to think about: generalized, seizures that affect the whole brain, and then focal or partial seizures, those that affect a localized part of the brain alone. Let's look at generalized first. There's lots of different types. One of the classic ones to think about is your tonic, clonic, or grand mal seizure, where you go with initial stiffening and the secondary jerking of your limbs. So your tonic first, then your clonic with impaired consciousness. Then you get your myoclonic seizures, often happen with normal consciousness, but you get these sudden shock-like movements of limbs, a good example of generalized seizures. Then you have your absence or petit mal seizures, often start in childhood, where someone, for example, is talking and then suddenly and then you snap back into action. And these little pauses that can be 5 to 10 seconds, but can go up to 30 seconds. Again, a good example of generalized seizures. And then you get your atonic seizures, where suddenly someone has a drop in tone, so you may fall down with impaired consciousness. Again, a good example of generalized seizures. Then you have your focal or partial seizures. One of the first ones to remember is your secondary generalized seizure, one that starts off focal, but it ends up being generalized. So it starts off with one part of the brain, but it ends up covering the whole of the brain itself. Then you can split it into two types. You can have motor versus sensory. So you can have your focal motor seizures, which affect one part of the brain, but affect only motor things like movements. And then your focal sensory seizures that affect, again, one part of the brain, but only affect sensation, for example. Then you can split it into simple versus complex. A focal simple seizure is when you maintain consciousness, whereas a focal complex seizure is when we have impaired consciousness as well. So two main types: generalized, affect the whole brain, and focal or partial, which affect one part of the brain alone. Hope this helps. Hi guys, just in London today for our PLAB 2.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the form of seizure that he was talking about, the absence one, until fairly recently, it was attributed to something that started only in children, but it has been apparently determined now that it does happen in adults as well. And I firmly believe that what we are seeing here, I ardently believe, is an exhibition of an absence form of an epileptic seizure that Mr. McConnell, Senator McConnell, is suffering. And it is a sad thing. Again, I believe it may have been something that was a triggered or a side effect of having had that fall and the traumatic brain injury that came with it. We've got one more video to show you, and then we're going to have a little bit of discussion in a few minutes. But let's watch this other video, and then we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and do some ratchet showing. Blazeman, you got the third? Here we go.
This video is about how to help if someone has an absence seizure. Someone having an absence seizure is unconscious for a few seconds. They will stop doing whatever they were doing before it started, but will not fall. They might blink, have slight jerking movements of their body or limbs. They don't know what is happening around them, and they can't be brought out of it. Absence seizures can be very hard to spot, and it might appear they're daydreaming or switching off. Absences can happen repeatedly. Some people have hundreds of absence seizures a day. They may be more common when the person is falling asleep or waking up.
So all this area here, we need to get all of this sorted out, yeah?
Right, and stuff in the middle?
Yeah, we'll get everything done, including all these pieces that people have left here as well and just dumped.
We're squaring off all the edges and...
Yeah, we'll get all the edging done as well, because we've got to get all that done as well.
Yeah, of course.
And the tree as well. We're not going to do the tree, but we'll get a couple of the lads over to get that done. Yeah.
Cool. So I start over there, clearing some stuff?
Yeah, good idea. Just be careful with the leaf blower. It was playing up a bit last week. Jake? You hear what I said, Jake?
Sorry, mate. You were saying?
Yeah, no, I was just saying about the leaf blower playing up last week. So just to be a little bit careful with
cool,
that.
Yeah. When I...
Jake? Jake?
Yes, mate. You were saying?
Are you okay? I think you had a seizure there.
When someone is having an absence seizure, you can help by gently guiding them away from any dangers, especially if they're having repeated absences. Not restraining them or making any abrupt movements, being calmly reassuring. Don't give them anything to eat or drink until they're fully recovered. As absence seizures are very short, people usually recover immediately and are able to carry on with what they were doing. It's helpful to explain anything they may have missed. Medical attention is only needed if the person has badly injured themselves. Absence seizures can be frustrating for people as they are missing out on what's going on. You can help by protecting them from any danger during a seizure and explaining anything they may have missed.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that information all having been said, I hope you'll all agree with me. It was some very good information, and I hope you'll agree. It looks to me more and more that what's happening with McConnell has to be this absence type of epileptic seizure. Sad as it is to say, is this something that can be corrected? I don't know. Is this actually what's happening? Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I don't have scans and so forth in front of me, but it appears that this may very well be what's happening. And is this going to get worse? Is this going to affect McConnell's ability to do his job? Is McConnell going to realize that there's something is going on and step aside? This all remains to be seen. And by the way, what do the people of his home state in Kentucky have to say? We'd like to know. How a problem is, you can only do so much. Now, these things all been asked and said. We're going to take about a 3.5 minute break. We're going to come back, and then we're going to bring in Blaze, our engineer, and we're going to be doing some talking about this and trying to figure this out. All right, I'm Mr. B. This is Poli-Ticking with Mr. B, and we'll be back in probably about 3.5 minutes. Blazeman.
Holding on to each other. Missed the last bus on foot to get home. I miss the town, rowdy and clever, all at once undercover, blowing kisses to the shop windows as we go. We stayed out playing past midnight. That was years ago. Now something just ain't right. Better take it slow. Stayed out playing past midnight. But that was years ago.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a video here we're going to be bringing in.
Breaking news overnight, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell in the hospital this morning following a fall at a Washington hotel. ABC News senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott has the latest. Good morning, Rachel.
Juju, good morning. And McConnell's office is providing very little details on how long he is expected to remain in the hospital or just how serious that fall was. But here's what we know as of this morning. His spokesperson tells me that McConnell was attending a private dinner in Washington, D.C. at a local hotel. He tripped. He was admitted to the hospital where he is receiving treatment. McConnell is 81 years old. He is the longest serving party leader in the history of the Senate. He's a survivor of polio who often talks openly about how he has difficulty climbing upstairs as an adult. He did suffer a fall back in 2019 where he fractured his shoulder and spent a few weeks recovering back home in Kentucky. With McConnell in the hospital, the Senate is now missing several members. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat, is at home in California recovering from shingles. Senator John Fetterman is still receiving treatment for clinical depression. And a closely divided Senate, every single absence matters, but members of Congress on both sides of the aisle wishing them all well this morning. Michael.
As we do as well, Rachel. Thank you.
Well, that information also comes as quite a surprise. I did not And we are back. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for that. We had some sort of a technical interruption there. Mitch McConnell apparently had suffered from polio. And this in the back of my mind, makes me think about something. There's also something called encephalitis. And many of you may remember seeing a film with Robin Williams and Robert De Niro called Awakenings, where there was some sort of an affliction that people wound up freezing up, but unfortunately, they did so permanently for a number of years. And I'm just kind of wondering if maybe that's something that might be going on in time. But anyway, we have our engineer Blazeman come in. I want to get a second opinion and a fresh pair of eyes in on this. Blazeman, would you care to come in and give us your thoughts and your views? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is our engineer and happy man Blazeman. Thank you very much for coming in, sir.
Mr. B, how are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well.
How is everyone doing out there in FFN network playing? No. All right, Mr. B, let me ask you one question right off the bat, okay? How would it differ for you if this was a Democrat that just did that?
This is a human being, sir. Okay? This is a human being. And regardless of their political views or outlooks or whatever, there is a consideration here, of course, for the people that they are serving. But first and foremost, before anything and all of that, there's a consideration for the humanity of a person.
All right, so with that being said, he goes, resignation this week. The other tall guy with the goatee, with the bald head, that has the mental issues and seeing somebody, boom, gone, boom. You're out of here. You're not fit to hold office in any way, shape, or form. What you say affects people. What you do affects people. Gone. Biden should hand in his recognition. Also, he's too old to hold office. Okay? The other guy, I forget his name. If you can help me with that, great. He needs to be out. And Mitch already had 2 strokes on national TV or on TV or whatever. Gone. Resignation next week. That's it. His lieutenant or whatever can take office or whatever and let everybody fight for the seat later on. That's my take on that, Mr. B.
I understand. I understand.
Anybody else who's got balls in the chat, come on, let's go. Go ahead,
So,
Mr. B.
in the meantime, in the interim,
Mr. B, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'll tell you right now, this wouldn't be your attitude if it was a Democratic politician that was having it.
no, there are other people on both sides of the fence, my friend, that have clear issues and so forth. And again, I'm looking at this as a health thing, and I'm trying to be as generous in a human existence light as I possibly can. As far as being a public service and so forth, yes. If they're having medical issues and so forth, if it's going to impair the people, yeah, it is time for them to step down, step aside, and let someone come in who is of sound mind and body to come in and do the work. But as
So do you
far
agree
as
with me?
I would agree, whether he is Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, this is a person who, if their functional capacity isn't up to the job, they have to go. I was working. I was a firefighter EMT for a number of years. I got injured. It became plainly evident I was no longer up to the job. I had to leave, and I did. Was it
Right.
painful? Yes. It was a form of a new step. It was a form of life progression. Did I want it to progress that way? Absolutely not. Did it happen that way? Whether I wanted it or not, yeah. Whether I wanted it or not, that's what was happening. So at this point in time, these people they do need to come to the realization that
Yeah,
uh,
it's time to go.
the time has come. They need to move around, and we have that.
Do you
We
think
saw
they
what
should
happened.
be? Do you think that there should be term limits?
Term limits, yes. It has nothing to do with age. It's
What do
just
you
term
say?
limit.
5 years
Well, I think maybe a
or
period
4 years like the
of
president?
2 terms, 2 terms, and that's it.
Well, I say, they can keep running. You know what I mean? But
I don't know,
they got to go and, they can't just sit there all the time.
right?
You know what I mean? So, yeah, all right. Even the same as the president of the United States. You get 2 terms, and that's it.
Okay.
I'm asking you, what do you think?
I think that yeah, there should be term limits. The question is, um, how long do we institute the limits for? How
2 terms,
what
4 years.
is that enough?
Yeah, plenty.
Is that enough?
Yep.
For the presidency? Yes, there's a limit of 2 terms. That's 8 years.
Same thing for your congressman and your senate. That's it. And if they lose 1 year, then yeah, they can go and try and make a comeback for their second term. But that's it. That's it. See what the Panthers are saying out here.
What if the person becomes? Yep. What if the people clamor so much because they like the person so much that they want to put them back in for another term?
Well, they can't now, can they? Because that's it.
That's true.
Okay? Do you think Obama would have won his third term?
I pray to God not. I would pray to God that people have learned after 8 years.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Souza
Yep.
from the neutral corner. That's right.
Yep.
Term limits for Congress and senators. That's what I said.
Yep.
You know
Term
what I
limits
mean?
for Congress, for Senate, for the presidency.
Okay, but our description with you and me is how long? I'm saying 4 years, 2 terms. That's it.
2 terms.
And if something like this happens, because these people don't have to go see the doctor and see if they and take an evaluation to see if they're okay to come back to work. You know what I mean? They don't have to. And supposedly this dude didn't even see a doctor when he wanked up the first time.
Well, we don't know for certain. He could very well have been treated for something, but it might have, as they say, kept on the down low. We don't know. We know the man had a fall. To what extent he suffered injury, again, we don't know. We haven't been told. But now we're seeing this happening, and it is bringing question into mind of to exactly what and exactly what is going to happen next. Would you agree?
Okay, Mr. B, I said what I said. I don't know what else I can say. He needs to be handing in his resignation tomorrow, the next day.
Okay.
Biden needs to hand in his resignation. The tall gentleman, the bald guy.
I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name.
I think he's Georgia or something like that. Anyway, he needs the resignation right now. Again, how can I don't know. These people, what they say, it matters to the people that they represent. Do you understand? I mean,
absolutely.
I don't want somebody who's, is not healthy and is not functioning properly to, make laws and decisions on my behalf because I might have voted for them or either way.
At what point do you draw the line? At what point do you draw the line?
Now.
No. I mean, with a person's health.
Now.
Let's say you've got somebody who has a problem stuttering. Do you throw them out?
No, that's ridiculous. Okay. Now you're being a little ridiculous. I apologize, but come on. No, they have a stuttering problem. That's not. That's a tick. That's not a health issue.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, in an issue where there's some sort of mental compromise, where there can be a problem, yes, the person needs to go.
If it arises while they're in office?
Correct. If it arises while they're in office, they need to go.
Anything that prevents you mentally, Mr. B, from making hard decisions, not if your right arm don't work or you got to walk with a walker or whatever because you can't walk. I'm talking mentally.
Right.
Okay.
Some sort of impairment.
Okay. If he or she is deaf, that's not grounds to tell them they gotta leave.
No, not at all.
Hey. They'll have an interpreter for that person, just like they have interpreters for everything else. Okay.
All right. So, what avenues do we have as citizens and voters to cause this to happen if they won't voluntarily go, other than waiting for the ordinary voting election time?
I'm embarrassed because I'm drawing a blank here, and that recall. They can recall. You get so many signatures, and boom, they're out. They go up for recall. That's the way it should be.
I would tend to agree to you.
Hypothetically, I say that anything. If the government is going to spend, again, hypothetically, if the government's going to spend $10 trillion, right?
Yeah.
And they go when Congress goes in there and votes and all of that stuff like that for it, right?
Yeah.
I think the American people should have a vote on that.
Yeah.
You should go to the fucking poll, okay, and you should vote. Okay? But some people will say, well, then what do we need Senate and Congress for? Maybe you're right. You know what I mean? Because that's why we vote these women, men and women in. And I say that if he was my constituents, I'd be a little nervous. This guy can't function. Resignation, 1 to 2 days. The ball guy, goatee, Georgia, whatever. Resignation, bye-bye. Joe Biden, resignation, and any other of those politicians that might have issues. Mr. B.
I was just about to mention.
Go ahead.
I have personal friends who are in Kentucky and do not like Mitch McConnell. They don't trust him further than they can throw him. But and they say the man needs to go, but they're stopping short of saying, we need to do something to recall the man.
No, and I just sign his resignation. We can't go in and try to have these laws go through Congress and the Senate or whatever now, so the American people can vote out Mitch McConnell. He could drop dead in the next 4 or 5 days, for all we know.
Or he could have something, nothing happen.
He's had 2 strokes. He did this before, remember?
Yeah. He's a total of 3 episodes. We don't know if there were strokes. We don't know what this week.
Right. 6 or 7 weeks ago he did this.
Yes. Which is what sparked my doing this program this evening.
Right.
Yeah.
So my question is this man go through a battery of tests? When that happened to him, did he go see his doctor and his doctor conduct a battery of tests? Okay? I'm talking MRI with contrast. See if he's got any aneurysms going on up there in the old brain. A CAT scan, they could find that out through a CAT scan too. Apparently they didn't.
There is another more simple way that would be able to most likely test if what I suspect is true, is with a strobe light. A lot of people, or most people that have
that don't work on all epileptics.
Epilepsy will trigger an epileptic seizure or an epileptic episode.
Not all the time.
Not all. That's what I said. A lot of people. Yeah,
right.
Give it a try. An MRI. I don't know. Is that going to categorically tell us what's happening or rule it out?
An MRI will show if he's had a stroke. Yes.
A stroke, yes, but if it's epilepsy. If it's epilepsy.
Yes.
It will show it for sure?
We can look it up, but I'm going to say...
I know of no...
Will epilepsy show up on a MRI? Yeah. She said she's not going to say yes or no, but she'll let me know tomorrow.
Is she a radiologist?
Yeah, she works in radiology there. She worked in radiology for like 20 years.
Oh, wow. I was saying, I don't know of any radiological examining would show epilepsy. I've never heard of it.
It's like a stigma in your brain, right?
It's something that happens.
Something in there that triggers it.
It's like a shorting of
the nerves.
Of the nerves, but it's not like a physical change of the brain matter itself.
Right, but it can detect if you're having one.
Yeah, we'd be able to detect if you're having a seizure, but if you're
I don't know, maybe do your flash and then whip them in an MRI and see if all of that's what's going on with the old noggin. Well, all I'm saying is out, and for everybody who's watching and stuff like that, would you want the resignation? We already got the answer from Jerry, the neutral corner with Jerry.
Yeah.
Of course, you got my answer. And we'll
Right.
see. But Mr. B, they're trying to implement lockdown. I want to know how you feel about that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am not going to be locked down. I am not going to be forced to put a diaper on my face again. This is not happening. I'm not going to be forced to get something shoved in my arm that I don't want. It's just not going to happen. And by and large, the American people are all doing exactly the same thing. They're sick and tired of this crap. They don't trust. They've learned to not trust the American government because they know that they've been lied to. They've spent all of this money that belongs to the people on
Mr. B, what if they
foolishness.
bring back that you can lose your fucking job? If your job says you got to get a booster or something again, you get a job. What if they go and do that again?
I tell them go pound sand.
Yeah, Mr. B, I get it. Tell them to go pound sand or whatever. What if they said they were going to come for your Social Security if you don't take the shot?
Good luck. Show me where it's legal they can do it.
Well, I don't know. They could throw a clause in there saying, look, just like anything, just like they got all the factories and the warehouse companies and all of that shit like that to tell their employees that if you don't get the fucking shot, you'll lose your job.
Well,
so again,
it's high time that people started standing up to the bullyism that's going on. It's not political this and that. It's bullyism. I'm coining a phrase. I'm making up a word. Bullyism. That's exactly what it is.
Bullyism.
I
can't believe that's all you got for me, Mr. B. Mr. B, the United States government is going to want to make you put that mask on again, Mr. B.
Tough shit. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to wear these stupid masks. They do nothing. Nothing. This can right here. This can right here. If I pick this can up and touch it and I'm infected with something, now the can is infected. Okay? We can't say, oh, well, I touched it here, but I didn't touch it here, so there's this section of the can isn't infected.
Right, Mr.
Same
B,
thing with a mask
in
on
order
your face.
for it to be absolutely effective, people would literally have to stay in their homes and not do a fucking thing. Because like you said, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, make sure you wear a mask, and if you need to go to the market to get something, you go to get something. And I'm sitting
that's
there
all
just
the
like
dead
you
people
was,
in China, pal.
and I just stand there like you was, and I'm looking at the B&M beans, and I'm like, I don't know if I want that. And there I go with the box of rice, maybe I'll go with brown rice. I put the white rice in. Then if I am infected, then where is that infection going, Mr. D?
All I have to say is tell
Going
that
on
to
that box.
dead in China. What's that?
It's going on the box.
Yeah, of course. Going on the box. It's as soon as someone comes in contact with something, or if they're even if they've got a mask on, a mask does not stop the microscopic droplets that come out. Somebody sneezes or coughs. When they say, "Oh, well, you're breathing too hard through the mask." Well, if you sneeze, how many people do you know that sneeze? They go, "Achoo." How many people do you know that sneeze? They go, "Achoo," and that's it. No, it's so that will project it, and the stuff and the little droplets of whatever else are going to get through the mask, and they're going to be going out and casting things off, and people are going to be spreading whether they like it or not. They can put as many masks on as they want. The only thing you can do is walk around in an encapsulated suit, and that would be your best bet at protecting yourself for a period of time. But these masks and rubbing stuff down with handy wipes with alcohol on it or whatever else, it is all incredible bullshit. and it largely did nothing. The best chance that we have, or the best chance that we had, was ivermectin and the chloro, whatever it is, quinine stuff. Those are the best chances that we had, and the government turned around and said, "No, we want to give you this stuff that, by the way, we're paying money out to big pharmaceutical companies for." Bullshit. Bullshit. Follow the money and find out why that happened. How many people were invested in it, or how many people's friends of friends of friends that had things that were split off for them or kicked back or whatever. The federal government is not trustworthy, not in such matters of this. They have proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. They have completely proven it.
Officials warned anyone unwell to put on a mask and avoid work, I say, as you're coughing alongside me.
Well, it's not a new rule, but is it time to, or rule, I should say, but is it time to bring back voluntary face masks? Joining us now is Dr. Natalie Rout, a GP, who says that it would be safer generally, and Dr. Colin Axon, an engineering lecturer. His ventilation reports were used by the official COVID committees, and he says that masks simply don't protect against COVID. So why then is there this press for people to wear them again then?
Well, because it's a safe, easy and immediately actionable thing to do. And even though it's not 100% effective, even if we are reducing transmission of COVID and flu and other droplet viruses as well, by a tiny amount, it could have a huge impact on our population at a time where the NHS is under significant amounts of pressure.
Oh, so in a way, as we were just saying, it's sort of doing your bit, isn't it? And would you suggest, in your opinion as a GP, clearly part of your motivation is to relieve pressure on the NHS, are you suggesting only people who are ill or think they might be ill should wear one, or that everyone should go back to wearing a mask?
Well, I would say at this stage, I think if you are feeling unwell with a cough or a cold, then you should be wearing one if you're socialising or going out into a supermarket or you're on public transport. But I would actually like to see people wearing them when they are entering hospitals and my practice. I've certainly worn one throughout the pandemic when I see my patients. And I think at this stage, we also know from experience that sometimes you can start spreading COVID before you display symptoms. It would be sensible to start wearing them in all healthcare establishments.
Dr. Colin Axon, you did a report on ventilation which was used by some of the committees to help them make decisions early in the pandemic. You don't have faith in the preventative quality of masks. Why not?
The evidence, that the highest quality review evidence, shows quite clearly that there is no measurable effect at all. And this is looking at lots of studies from around the world and evaluating the quality of their studies, the design of the studies, the gathering of the evidence, the statistical analysis, and that has been reviewed by a team that uses what's called the Cochrane method for reviewing evidence, and that is the gold standard of review. And they have found that there is no measurable effect from using masks in the real world.
So why do surgeons and operating theatre staff routinely wear masks during surgery?
Because it's to protect the theatre staff from splashes during surgery of bodily fluids of the patient, not to protect the patient.
Why then does the UK Health Security Agency raise the prospect of new restrictions and say face coverings could help slow the spread? That is the UK Health Security Agency. Are they simply wrong?
The current director, Jenny Harries, back in 2020 had the evidence correct when she said that the evidence, I think she said, was not strong or was weak for the use of face masks in the community.
So are we saying then that if I were to be wearing a mask now and I had COVID, are we saying that the viruses which would spread into the air without the mask spread equally virulently by what? Leaking out from the top and the bottom, or leaking through the fabric? I mean, why don't the masks work?
That's completely correct. The mask will stop droplets, but that droplets are not the problem. It is the very tiniest particles, which are called aerosols, that will mostly pass through the material of the standard masks that are generally being used. And of course, the gaps around the side render them essentially without use.
Dr. Natalie Rout, you're shaking your head. I know that if people are going into your surgery, you'd like them to wear a mask this morning, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And I think, yes, of course, a mask needs to be well fitted. A mask needs to be of a certain material to provide a certain amount of protection. And we have studies that show that.
OK, thank you both very much indeed.
There you have it, Blaze.
Well,
much ado about nothing.
True, but we're gonna wait to see what happens, buddy. You know what I mean? I'm gonna let you say goodnight to the audience, and I will talk to you soon, sir. Another great show, Mr.
Thank you very much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you very, very much for watching, tuning in. This has been Politicking with Mr. B. If you're around, share it, tell whatever, tell your friends. If you're still watching this, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be good night because apparently we're having problems. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.